The United States has extended protection to the Philippines' newly discovered natural gas reserves.
Rejects China's standard map, the map which now has a 10-dash line.
What if the next global energy breakthrough and the next major geopolitical flashpoint is unfolding right now in the waters off the Philippines? Beneath the deep blue expanse of the West Philippine Sea lies a powerful combination of untapped natural gas, strategic military positioning, and one of the busiest trade routes on Earth. As tensions rise between the United States and China, the Philippines finds itself no longer on the sidelines, but at the very center of a high-stakes regional transformation. And what happens next could shape the future of energy security, military balance, and economic stability across the Indo-Pacific. For years, the Philippine Navy has maintained a steady watch over the Malampaya energy complex through Joint Task Force Malampaya, deploying ships, aircraft, and specialized units to safeguard one of the country's most critical energy lifelines. The newly confirmed Malampaya East 1 gas reservoir sits within the Western Command's operational zone and is regularly patrolled. But this is about more than protecting a gas field. The Philippines is rapidly emerging as a key frontline state in the growing U.S.-China rivalry. As Washington increases its military presence across the archipelago, part of the strategically vital first island chain that includes Japan and Taiwan, Manila's geographic importance becomes impossible to ignore. Roughly 30% of global maritime trade, about $4 trillion worth of goods annually, passes through the South China Sea. Control, access, and stability in these waters affect not just regional players, but the entire global economy. And below those waters, massive potential energy reserves. Estimates from the U.S. Geological Survey and other agencies suggest the region could hold hundreds of trillions of cubic feet of natural gas and billions of barrels of oil. Some already proven, others still undiscovered. For an energy-hungry region, those numbers are staggering. At the same time, China has fortified artificial islands in disputed waters, expanding its footprint. In response, U.S. defense planners are adapting, proposing agile, island-based military units capable of operating across remote parts of the Philippines in the event of conflict. The Philippine archipelago isn't just a collection of islands. It's a strategic bridge between the Pacific Ocean and the South China Sea, a natural defensive arc along the first island chain. For Manila, the challenge is balancing sovereignty, economic development, and national security, all while navigating complex relationships with both Washington and Beijing. Roughly 2.8 billion cubic meters, or 98 billion cubic feet, of natural gas were discovered just 5 kilometers east of the Malampaya field near Palawan. And that's only part of the bigger picture. According to joint assessments by the U.S. Geological Survey and China's Ministry of Geology and Mineral Resources, oil deposits in the Spratly Islands alone could reach 17.1 billion barrels. Some estimates suggest the total hydrocarbon wealth in the broader region could exceed $26 trillion in value, rivaling or even surpassing the reserves of major oil-producing nations. The U.S. Energy Information Administration estimates that the South China Sea holds about 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 11 billion barrels of oil in proved and probable reserves, much of it located along the region's margins, including areas within the Philippines' maritime zone. This isn't just about territory, it's about energy security, economic power, strategic dominance, and the future balance of influence in the Indo-Pacific. As tensions simmer and warships patrol the horizon, one thing is becoming clear. Beneath those contested waters lies more than just geopolitical rivalry. There's energy, there's wealth, and there's a high-stakes race to secure it. How much energy is really hidden beneath the South China Sea? Back in 2012, the U.S. Geological Survey estimated there could still be 160 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 12 billion barrels of oil waiting to be discovered under those waters. Beijing's own estimates are even higher, though still small compared to China's massive appetite for energy. To put it into perspective, China was consuming more than 12.8 million barrels of oil per day as far back as 2018, and that demand has only grown. So while the numbers may be modest for China, they're game-changing for smaller nations like the Philippines. That's where the United States steps in. Washington has been openly backing Manila's push to explore and protect its oil and gas reserves in the West Philippine Sea, especially as tensions with China continue to rise. Through expanded defense alliances, joint task forces, and strong rejection of China's sweeping territorial claims, the U.S. is signaling something very clear. Coercion won't go unanswered. Because for the Philippines, this isn't just geopolitics, it's survival. In 2023, the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative reported that several countries are ramping up oil and gas development projects in disputed waters, a move that could easily spark new flashpoints. China, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia have all pushed forward with exploration. Meanwhile, the Philippines has kept its projects on hold in contested areas, a freeze that's been in place since 2014. But that pause may not last much longer. In 2024, the United States signaled serious interest in partnering with the Philippines on energy development inside its exclusive economic zone. Philippine companies holding offshore concessions have already begun seeking American partners for joint exploration ventures. And the timing couldn't be more urgent. Electricity prices in the Philippines are under pressure, not just from global energy market swings, but from a looming domestic crisis. The Malampaya gas field, which supplies around 40% of the power needs for the capital region, is expected to run dry by 2027. If no replacement is found, the economic fallout could be severe. That looming deadline has turned energy exploration into a national priority. Over the next several years, the Philippines could attract as much as $100 billion in investments into its oil and gas sector. U.S. and Japanese firms are seen as potential major players, especially as political tensions in the West Philippine Sea make Chinese partnerships more complicated. Stronger ties with Washington and Tokyo could dramatically boost Manila's standing as a strategic investment hub in Southeast Asia. The U.S. is reportedly pursuing an industrial strategy aimed at helping develop the Philippines' untapped energy reserves, deposits some estimates value in the trillions of dollars. And that's exactly why the pressure is rising. Between 2018 and 2025, repeated standoffs erupted between China, Vietnam, the Philippines, and other Southeast Asian nations over drilling operations in disputed waters. Many analysts warn that even more serious confrontations may lie ahead. A new report suggests fresh tensions could flare as claimants, except the Philippines, continue advancing oil and gas projects inside areas claimed by Beijing under its sweeping 9-dash line. Data from the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative shows that many new offshore developments sit in zones where past confrontations have already occurred. At the same time, the China Coast Guard has stepped up patrols across disputed waters. Experts warn that the risk of direct encounters between Chinese law enforcement vessels and oil and gas operators is growing by the day. Some analysts argue Manila should conduct joint patrols with the United States and deploy the Philippine Navy to safeguard future exploration missions. Beijing, however, has sharply criticized the Philippines' expanding security ties with Washington, calling the U.S. a destabilizing force in the region. Tensions intensified after the Marcos administration granted American forces expanded access to military bases under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. One location drawing particular attention is the Calayan Island Group. Reports from both the U.S. Geological Survey and China's Ministry of Geology and Mineral Resources suggest the area could hold up to 17.1 billion barrels of hydrocarbons, with an estimated value of $26.3 trillion. Not surprisingly, the area is becoming a strategic focal point, with new defense infrastructure rising as Manila strengthens its position. Beneath the waves lies enormous wealth. Above the surface, a power struggle is unfolding. And as energy demands grow and reserves run dry, the question becomes impossible to ignore. Who will control the future of the South China Sea? Something big is taking shape in the far south of the Philippines. On Balabac Island, just miles from critical oil and gas reserves in the disputed West Philippine Sea, the United States and the Philippines are finishing construction on a strategic military runway. The site is one of the key locations under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA, and its position is no accident. It sits near waters believed to hold enormous energy wealth. At the same time, U.S., Philippine, and allied forces have been ramping up joint maritime exercises in the very waters where Manila's oil and gas reserves lie. Last year, the powerful Nimitz Carrier Strike Group joined Philippine and Japanese ships in the South China Sea, Washington's largest show of force in those contested waters in years. The drills came after a string of maritime confrontations involving China and U.S. allies. The message was clear: these waters matter. And at the center of it all is Malampaya. The Malampaya Deepwater Gas-to-Power project, located about 50 kilometers off northwest Palawan, marked the birth of the Philippines' natural gas industry. Since launching commercial operations in 2002, the project has generated more than $12 billion in revenue for the Philippine government and supplied up to 20% of Luzon's electricity, powering millions of homes and businesses. Now, a new chapter is unfolding. A newly discovered reservoir called Malampaya East 1, MAE1, has emerged as the first major breakthrough under the Malampaya Phase 4 drilling campaign, which also includes the Camago and Bagong Pagasa wells. Early results are promising, very promising. Initial tests show the well flowing at 60 million cubic feet per day, signaling strong production potential. Experts say it could rival the output of the original Malampaya wells, a high-productivity resource that may extend the life of the entire project. That's critical, because Malampaya has long been one of the most important industrial projects in Philippine history, a partnership between the national government and the private sector, spearheaded by the Department of Energy and operated by Prime Energy for its joint venture partners. For over 2 decades, it has delivered cleaner-burning natural gas to 4 major power plants in Luzon, with a combined capacity of 3,200 megawatts. The impact has been enormous: fewer oil imports, more stable electricity supply, and a vital indigenous energy source for a country with some of the highest power costs in the region. But there's urgency. The original Malampaya field is projected to run dry within just a few years, raising fears of a serious energy crunch. Without new supply, electricity prices could surge and economic growth could slow. That's why the discovery of Malampaya East 1 couldn't have come at a more crucial moment. It offers hope and possibly years of extended domestic gas production. Yet the discovery also raises a high-stakes question: can the Philippines protect it? The new gas field lies about 45 miles off mainland Palawan, well within the Philippines' 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone under international law. But it also sits inside China's sweeping 9-line claim, an overlap that fuels ongoing geopolitical tension. Beijing has previously challenged Philippine exploration activities in the area, increasing the risk of confrontation. The armed forces of the Philippines and the Philippine Navy have moved quickly to reassure the public. They say they are fully capable of securing the Malampaya East 1 reservoir, emphasizing that protection is based on operational capability, not just the number of ships deployed. The site is located just 5 kilometers from the existing Malampaya platform and falls under the operational coverage of the military's Western Command, WESCOM. Specifically, Joint Task Force Malampaya has been assigned to monitor and defend the area. Their mission? Detect and respond to any harassment, intrusion, or foreign maritime interference. With U.S.-Philippine defense ties deepening, new military infrastructure rising, and allied warships operating nearby, the stakes have never been higher. Beneath the surface lies energy that could power the Philippines for years. Above it, a strategic chessboard is unfolding. And the question now isn't just about energy, it's about sovereignty, security, and who controls the future of the West Philippine Sea. The Philippine Navy hasn't taken its eyes off Malampaya for a second. For years, Joint Task Force Malampaya has maintained a steady, visible presence around the vital gas fields, deploying naval ships, aircraft, and even special operations units to keep watch. The task force confirms that Malampaya East 1 falls squarely within the Western Command's area of responsibility, and Navy patrols regularly sweep the waters around it. This isn't routine security, it's part of something much bigger. The Philippines is quickly becoming a frontline state in the escalating U.S.-China rivalry across the Indo-Pacific. As Washington sends more advanced military assets into the archipelago, which sits along the strategic first island chain that includes Taiwan and Japan, the country's importance to U.S. defense strategy is only growing. Geography tells the story. The Philippines lies just east of the South China Sea, one of the most critical trade corridors on the planet. Roughly 30% of global maritime trade flows through those waters. That's about $4 trillion worth of goods moving every year. Whoever controls or influences this sea lanes holds enormous economic leverage. But it's not just about shipping routes. It's about what's beneath the surface. Inside the Philippines' 200-mile exclusive economic zone are potentially massive oil and gas reserves. Joint assessments from the U.S. Geological Survey and China's Ministry of Geology and Mineral Resources suggest that the Spratly Islands alone could hold up to 17.1 billion barrels of oil. The U.S. Energy Information Administration estimates the broader South China Sea contains around 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 11 billion barrels of oil in proved and probable reserves. And that may not even be the full picture. Back in 2012, the USGS projected there could still be an additional 160 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 12 billion barrels of oil yet to be discovered in the region. Energy, trade, military positioning, all of it converges in the Philippines. The waters west of the archipelago, where China has transformed once empty reefs into fortified military outposts, are also deep and complex, ideal for stealth submarine operations. In any future conflict, control of these underwater pathways could prove decisive. That's why U.S. military planners are rethinking strategy. As energy exploration advances and defense cooperation deepens, the situation raises important questions rather than simple conclusions. How should smaller nations manage valuable natural resources when they lie in contested regions? What role should alliances play in maintaining regional stability? And how can countries pursue energy security without escalating geopolitical tensions? The story unfolding in the West Philippine Sea isn't just about military strategy or oil and gas reserves. It's about how nations navigate sovereignty, cooperation, and competition in an increasingly interconnected world. Understanding these dynamics allows us to better appreciate the complex balance between economic opportunity, national security, and regional peace, a balance that will likely define the Indo-Pacific for decades to come.